Hello, my name's Sally Martin, and together with Tom Granlis, we're putting together a suite of YouTube videos that support the DNA Stimulation Project commercial breeder workshops. This one is based on Ewe Selection Opportunities, and I'll just go through a number of areas where you can look at selecting ewes with some additional data that will complement the rams that you've been purchasing. So firstly, getting the most out of your data. There's really no point in collecting data if you're not going to use it. And one of the other key things is we want to try and fit in with your calendar of production or operations so that when you've got the ewes yarded, you can be collecting some information that will also be able to go towards working and meeting your business production goals. Having a really clear breeding objective, as we've said in other previous YouTube videos, is going to be a key to working out which traits are going to be important to you in your operation and what you will measure. So for a commercial breeder, I'm going to focus on three key profit drivers, being fibre diameter, fleece weight and body weight. Now these are not exclusive of other important traits, but they are key traits that I've found that the majority of commercial breeders can easily collect and then utilise. We get paid for how fine our clip is and how much wool we cut, and then how quickly our animals grow can also be influencing our sheep sales as well as reproduction. Reproduction comes in as an important trait in terms of whether the ewes get in lamb and rear their lambs, but in terms of the initial selection process for commercial sheep, because we can't account for many of their other pedigree information and rare type, this is can potentially confound some of the data. So we look at utilising this reproduction traits as part of whether the ewes stay within the flock or not. If you have particular traits that are important to your environment, they can be added as well. What we really want to be able to do is to make sure that you're making informed decisions and that there are no animals that are in your system that are costing you money. So what we call the free rides. We want to make sure that you've got a return on your investment, and we also want to make sure that we start with the basics. We can add more complexity to the system as you go, but I think starting with a very simple program is really essential to make sure that we iron out any of the bugs and work out how best to do this to meet your breeding objective. Again, I'll reiterate that if you're not going to utilise the information, then it's not worth collecting. Within any flock, you have variation, and the variation is our opportunities. So you're going to have animals that are making you $85 or $25, even $100. And it could be that package in terms of whether they're cutting that amount of wool in terms of fleece value or how many lambs they might be rearing. So working in with your breeding objective and with the ram purchase index that you're utilising will also be of great value. So what I just wanted to do is to show a commercial example where we've actually gone and measured fibre diameter, fleece weight and body weight in this particular instance. And the information that I'm presenting here is based on 2,500 maiden ewes. We did measure what I would call the dead set culls, just out of curiosity to see what their value was and where they sat within the system. Normally, I would suggest that you go through the ewes and take out any animals that are not going to stay on the farm, ones that are in terms of conformation, wool style, if that's really of particular interest to you, or any traits that you would not accept. Then we measure the rest, and this is where again, I said we've measured the fibre diameter, greasy fleece weight in this instance. If yield or clean fleece weight was an important trait, we need to add that in, and body weight. I've calculated the wool value at the time when we took these measurements and net profit per hectare, and we've also got it as a dry sheep equivalent DSE rating as well. As you can see, the top, and we've then ranked them based on their profitability. So as you can see, there's over $100 difference between the what we call the dead set culls and the top 30%, as well as still a significant difference between the bottom 30% and the top 30%. What we've done here is we've taken out the bottom 35%. This is the average of the whole flock at the time, and then the average now of the top 65% that we've retained. As you can see, we're finer, cutting more wool, slightly heavier, probably not significant in this case, but overall our profitability in terms of net profit per hectare is $19 per hectare, and all we've done is work out which sheep leave the farm. So this can happen also in another way, which is often preferable because we're taking into consideration any correlations between traits, and we're using the same genetic parameters that are used in sheep genetics for your ram purchases. So ram power is a tool that can help utilise in your decision making. It generates a within flock selection index, and then we can rank the animals based on that. It's quite simple to use in terms of, again, we're still collecting, and this is an example where we're utilising electronic identification. We've collected a body weight, we've collected a greasy fleece weight, and we've also micron tested them. As you can see, we've also got two mobs in this particular example. So if you do have sheep that are running in slightly different environments but want to compare, what we would look at doing is ranking them within their group and then combining the information for an overall selection process. This information has gone into RamPower, and what is generated is an index based on the same genetic parameters and weightings as what your indexes for your RAM selections would be. So you can have fibre production plus, merino production plus, and dual purpose plus indexes, depending on what your breeding objective is. The average of your index is 100, so anything above 100 is above average and anything below 100 is below average. And what we've done here is purely rank them on that index. How we might use this information: this is an example where we have 1,700 maiden ewes, and we have gone out and measured a mid-side sample. We've collected a greasy fleece weight and body weight, as I showed before, and then purely ranked them based on their index. In this particular case, an additional 30% were taken out after obvious culls, and as you can see, the ones that we're keeping are cutting more wool, and they're finer, and they're also heavier. So our growth in terms of opportunities that we're looking at, ewes getting in lamb, being at a joining weight when we want them to be, and also having progeny that potentially will grow quicker too, because as our ram selection in this particular instance is also complemented with our ewe selection. This information that we're utilising can also be used in subsequent years. So we can't compare across years in this example, but we can still rank the animals based on their performance. So for example, if you wanted to offload a certain number of ewes after a period of time, instead of culling an age group, what you can do is actually rank them on their index and then take out a bottom tier or percentage across all age groups. The other information that you could add into this would be their reproduction information, pregnancy scan data, whether they're wet or dry, rearing lambs can also be added into this process, as well as visual assessment in terms of whether they're standing up over time. So this information is very very powerful in terms of being able to rank and identify animals that are more profitable, and over time the ewes that you're retaining will have a cumulative effect, and we will be able to, as I said before, complement the ram selections that you're making. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact Tom Granlise or myself, and I thank you.